What is the best thing you have ever heard a child say? 5 Yo, you're old. Me, I'm not that old, with a slight tone of indignation. How old do you think I am? 5 Yo, the last number. Not enough aloe vera in the world. After the usual machine gun style question and answer session with my 5-year-old, my wife asked her why she asks so many questions. Her response, well, I don't know anything. A 5-year-old discovering the Socratic paradox on her own. Awesome. Driving down a steep hill, I said to my then 4-year-old, sometimes I like to pretend I'm on a roller coaster when we go downhill. She replied, sometimes I pretend I'm riding a Ferris wheel made of bones. Holy crap, that is hardcore. At my grandmother's funeral, when the priest asked us all for a moment of silence to remember my grandmother, my 5-year-old brother, amidst all the silence and hushed crying, saw the priest lighting candles and started singing at the top of his lungs. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. He turned one of the saddest moments of my life into the funniest thing I've ever seen. Whilst looking at a rain puddle which had formed over a small oil spill, oh look, a dead rainbow. Your kid is awesome. My kid's first grade teacher collected a lot of good advice from her students and put them on a bulletin board. There were several gems, but one that stands out in my memory is, if you're being dragged, let go of the leash. I dated a woman who had a 5-year-old daughter. It was Christmas time and we took her to the store to get a new stocking. She took her sweet time and when she finally picked one out, she yelled in the crowded aisle, "Alright, now let's go get some hookers." I swear time stopped and everyone snapped their heads towards us. Turns out she was referring to those little weighted knickknacks that sit on the fireplace mantle and you hook the stocking on. My 4-year-old niece to my father leans in close and whispers, "Grandpa, I know the A word." Grandpa, hoping to have some fun, catching her saying a bad word. "Really? What's the A word?" My niece says loud and proud, "Frick. Dad hit the floor with that one." I was observing an elementary school teacher and she asked her students if they had any questions for me. The first question I got was, "Where exactly did you get your hair cut? Because my mom's hair looks terrible." What a compliment. In a hushed conspiratorial tone one time, I touched my poop. My daughter was 5 and we were at the park. She was jumping up and down pogo style everywhere through the park and approached a couple other girls to play with her. The older of the two girls was really snobby and asked why my kid was jumping like that. Kiddo said she was practicing how to be a kangaroo. The other little girl said, "That's stupid. You're never going to be a kangaroo." My daughter, still jumping, looked at her and said, "Maybe not, but all you'll ever be is human," and poggoed her butt to the other side of the park. She kept it up till we left the park too. The other favorite quote I have from her was when she cussed in front of me for the first time and it was pre-coffee early in the morning. I told her that was a grown-up word and she wasn't allowed to say that yet. She asked when she would be allowed to cuss. Without thinking, I said, "You can cuss when you get boobs." Her whole face lit up and she said, "You mean I get to have boobs?" Best morning ever. One of my sons was 5 years old and made a color copy of a $1 bill, both sides, cut them out, and taped them together. As an added bonus, he wrote 20 on each corner with a green marker, then tried to present it to me. After telling him about counterfeiting and the various problems, I added that it wouldn't even work because most people would look at it and know instantly it was counterfeit. "But I don't have to fool all the people," he responded. "I just have to fool one person." Well, I had to think about that one. This kid is going places. Well, in jiu-jitsu last week, I had a 7-year-old kid ask me, "What's the point of learning to defend ourselves when we're all just going to die anyway?" I had to step away to laugh. I had no idea how to answer that question. To be able to choose when and how you die, and how many you take with you, then stare off into the distance with a creepy smile. A couple of years ago, 2 of my little brothers, they were 3 and 5, we asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up. The older said excitedly, "I want to be a missionary and go to Ecuador." The younger piped in, "And I want to be a dinosaur that eats missionaries." My 2-year-old daughter calls helicopters helicopters and she waves to them every time she sees one. AWW, that's so much cuter than my sister calling them helidongters. When my kiddo was about 4 years old, I heard my son talking to himself in the bathroom and went to check on him. He was using a small piece of cardboard to push a spider in the direction of the bathtub, talking to the spider the entire time. Excuse me, sir. Pardon me, sir. Can I invite you to perhaps travel this way? Oh, no, not that way, sir. Over here, sir. Pardon me, sir. I don't feel you're listening. No, Mr. Spider, don't bite. Or, frick, I can't believe you've done this. Child prodigy golfer aged 12B to 40 something former college player. As they were shaking hands, she says, "Don't feel bad, I've been playing since I was 6. Oh, that physically hurts me just hearing that." In the car one day when my daughter was 3, all was quiet until she said, "Do you guys ever think we're not really here?" Husband says what? Daughter says maybe we're just part of the story that someone is reading to their baby at bedtime. And then what will happen to us when the story ends? Of course my reply was to look at my husband and ask if he had gotten her high. A 3-year-old with an existential crisis. When she was young, my friend was singing in the car when, all of a sudden, she started crying. Her mum asked her what was wrong, and she replied, "I'm crying at how beautiful my voice is." When my brother was like 5, my aunt and uncle came over for Thanksgiving dinner. He greeted them at the door. They're his godparents, so they spoiled him a bit. Enthusiastically and loudly said, "Uncle Jack, is that a stick in your pocket or are you just happy to see me?" He apparently had heard it in a movie and just thought it was a normal greeting for someone you're very fond of and might have a present for you. We laughed hysterically and told him not to say that anymore. Tried to explain it in a PG way but he didn't get it till he was like 12 or so. We still give him crap for it to this day and he's 23 now. This reminds me of the time I told my grandma to close her legs because she's attracting flies. Apparently my uncle had to leave the room for 30 minutes before he could stop laughing. As a teacher of health, I have a question box. What's a vulva comes up every year or two. Except last year one kid immediately put up his hand and with the kind of glee on his face that only being 100% sure of something can bring. He proudly exclaimed, "That's a car." My coffee has never missed my mouth that badly before as I tried to hold back the laugh that would have crushed his soul. Teaching is fun. I was coaching a soccer camp one summer and a little kid started talking about the real story of Hercules. Hera made him go insane and kill his wife and children, driving him to perform deeds to a king as retribution. I decided to chip into the conversations about Greek mythology by telling them about Odyssey escaping the Cyclops. Odysseus told the Cyclops that his name was Nobody so that when he escaped, the Cyclops would be screaming, "Nobody stabbed my eye. Nobody is escaping," and the other cyclones wouldn't help him. He loved the story. He was laughing so hard. So I said, "He's clever, isn't he?" And the little kid said, "I'm going to use that trick with girls. They'll go home and say nobody likes me. Nobody kissed me." My cousin got a job as a classroom assistant in the school her 4-year-old son was at. Being only 4 and hearing others calling her Miss XXXXXXX and him being used to calling her mummy, he got confused and started calling her Miss Mummy. The others in the class then followed suit and started calling her Miss Mummy. My cousin's kids heard my cousin call my mom aunt. However, other people called her Morma, Norwegian for grandma. They quite reasonably amalgamated these and started calling her Auntie Morma. The name stuck, and she's still Auntie Morma at family gatherings. About 2 years ago my son, 3 years old, was all about ninjas. He wanted to be one and stayed in a ninja-like state of mind for a day in day out. I would come home from work and he would be hiding from me ready to ninja kick me in the legs, haha. It was fun. So, one morning when we were walking back to the apartment and dropping off one of my other kids at school, my son assumes his ninja stance. Me, "Not now, let's keep walking." "Son, but papi, I'm not playing right now. I'm going to have to fight." Me, "Why? Who are you going to fight?" "Son, that ninja walking towards us." I look up to see a woman dressed in a traditional Indian headdress and she was within earshot of what my son said. Before I could apologize, she assumed a ninja stance too. It was quite funny and I'm happy she played along. 3-year-old niece. While I was driving her home one day, I knew the dinosaurs would come and get me one day. With a sigh of acceptance, there were 2 large cranes working on a bridge. Dinosaurs didn't go extinct, they just evolved into construction equipment. I'm only half Mexican now, but when I get older and my dad teaches me Spanish, I'll be a whole Mexican. Also, she used to refer to The Big Lebowski as that movie where the guy smells the milk. My little brother called Cliffhanger the movie with the helicopter. Me, hey, nice hair. She, thanks, the barber gave it to me. I was amused. I was babysitting a 6-year-old when she asked me, how many people are in the world? We're around 7 billion, showing her how big the number was by writing it down. There must be at least 168 parents out there. She's right, I suppose. What do you want to be when you grow up? A saber-toothed tiger. My 5-year-old cousin later decided he'd rather be a drum kit. 4-year-old nephew. Boogers are poop from your nose, so I don't eat them. I like that child. My job is full of 2 men snot picking and eating children. My 3-year-old daughter was flower girl for my sister-in-law. Some random old aunt walked up to her and exclaimed, "Oh sweetheart, you are a princess." My daughter looked at her and said, "No, I'm a drama queen." Same daughter also got quite worried during a power outage and called out, "Mummy, I can't find me." I taught middle school, and the mother of one of my students worked at the school as an assistant while she was studying for her teaching certification. One day after school, I overheard the mom berating her kid for making a B on his math test. "I believe you made a B? Why weren't you studying? Why didn't you make an A+" was the general gist of the conversation. The kid, who was one of the brightest in the grade, tried to explain that the test was difficult and that he actually had the top grade in the class, but his mom just couldn't let it go about the A. Finally, in frustration, the kid just laid into his mom. "Oh, really? B isn't good enough? Well, at least I'm passing my classes. Maybe you should take your own advice. Didn't you just fail your teaching test again? Why weren't you studying more? Why don't you have the best grade?" Dead silence, because he was right, and she knew it. The best part was that I could tell this kid had completely lost his cool because his accent, he's Indian, went from non-existent straight to Apple level, which only happened when he got really upset. They walked to the car in silence while I tried not to laugh and let them know I had heard. 0 to Apple real quick. My uncle was a 4th grade teacher, and one day he went into the bathroom. Standing in one of the urinals was this little kid. My uncle asks him, "Why are you standing in the urinal?" "Because I fit." The funniest bit was that, for a moment, it made sense to my uncle. My daughter, age 3, said a fart is just your poop turning to dust. I want to have this painted in cursive on a sign and hung in the bathroom. Once while I was waiting at a bus stop for school, I heard this kid, 3 or 4 years old, look up to his mother and say, "Mom, I just burped in my pants." In the car on the way to have his baby sister, he hears his mom on her phone telling her parents that her water broke. After she hangs up, he says, "Mommy, your water broke?" "Yeah, honey." He reaches for the water bottle in his car seat cup holder and says, "Here mommy, you can have mine." Deciding to be a parent or not would be so much easier if I knew I could have a child like this. This is awesome. My mom, what in the heck? My 5 years nephew, actually it's pronounced what in the world. My 4-year-old saw Frozen in a large cinema and immediately the movie was over broke the silence with, "When Elsa farts, does it make snow?" She got more laughs out of a room than I ever have. I was working with an autistic boy on his homework. He was becoming distressed. I asked if he'd like to take a break and come back later. "I can't. I have to finish the problems or mom will kill me." I knew his mom. She was a great person, so I replied, joking, "Oh, come on. Has your mom ever killed you before? Sometimes." My nephew calls Dwayne Johnson the Stone. I'm pretty sure he's actually the boulder. I called my niece a clown, and she said, "I'm not a clown, I'm a people." I responded, "Maggie, clowns are people, too." She replied, "No they aren't." She was 4 at the time. Get crap on, clowns. We had a number of deaths in a short time, my dad, grandmother and our dog, all of which were cremated. Grandma was the last to pass and she had an open casket funeral before being cremated. My daughter was 5 and after 3 deaths we had told her what cremation was. We were about 30 minutes into our drive home when my daughter very matter-of-factly breaks the gloomy silence. Yup, I bet they're cooking her up right now. Just last night I was holding my boyfriend's 2-year-old niece and she said, "Let me count your eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wear glasses." My 2 younger cousins were pondering life when one asks, "What do my nipples do?" "Nothing." To which the other cousin replies, "No, you need them." "Why?" "They're dumb. It's to tell if you're cold or not, because sometimes you can't tell." They were both really young. Another time, 2 other cousins of mine were play fighting when one was pretending to be the Hulk and the other the Terminator. When all of a sudden, Terminator just punches Hulk as hard as he could in the chest. Hulk fell to the floor, quietly sobbing and whined. To which Terminator became really upset and said, "I am sorry, I can't help it. That's what Terminator does." "Yeah, I understand," the other one says whilst on all fours crying. Those kids are total brothers. My uncle took his son, around 6-7, out to dinner one night, and they ran into my uncle's boss. Uncle says to his son, "Son, this is daddy's boss." The kid gets this look of absolute rage on his face and declares, "You're not my daddy's boss. My mommy's my daddy's boss." Bro, I bet he never heard the end of that at work. I didn't hear it, but apparently I said it, as family members have told me. When I was about 5, my mom was going through some stuff in my brother's room and she checked one of his drawers and there were some condoms in there. I excitedly shouted, "I know what those are. Those are condominiums. They keep you from getting rabies." And my personal favorite, my niece was watching My Little Pony and I was bugging about something and started to tickle her. She looks at me, dead serious, and says there's no time for tickles. Dad and young daughter are at a natural history museum, in front of a diorama displaying a family of dicks, small antelopes. The kid understands that the animals are taxidermied. The largest dick is posed with his head slightly bent downward, over a stream. Kid, "Oh poor daddy dick is thirsty, but he can't get a drink." "Dad, why can't he get a drink, sweetie?" Kid, looks at dad like he's an idiot, because he's dead. Chonk is back. Tell him hi Chonk in the comments and he will bring you good luck once again. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.